Right, let's talk about decisions, because we know we make a lot of them every day, and some of them are more difficult than others, of course. But there's some research out there that gives advice if you're having just a really hard time making a big decision. And this is interesting to look at, because what the researchers ultimately come up with is that the best way and most efficient and the quickest way to make a decision is if you have a lot of different choices, a lot of different routes to go, narrow it down to the best two, and then the decision will become a little bit easier for you.
So I was kind of having a tough time with the analogy in the article because it uses food as an analogy.
That was how they did this research.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, you're going to have a vegan choice, a chicken choice, and then another choice, and then voila, you make your best selection by narrowing it down to two.
Same thing as buying a house. Same thing.
It seems a little more simple than some of the big decisions we have going on in our lives.
For sure, but it is, the decisions that you make lots of every day are, if you really break it down, they are fairly complex decisions with multiple choices. And we make so many decisions every day, and most decisions we make are not the big things. It's in the produce section, which apple am I going to take? It's at the lunch counter, which thing am I going to order? And it's fascinating to try to get inside the mind and think, how do the synapses fire to make us make these decisions every day and not be paralyzed by indecision?
Well,
because truthfully, these things don't really matter, right? What you're having for lunch, it doesn't matter.
So how did they figure out
what
that it was...
the researchers did was they looked at the eye movements, and they could tell just from the eye movements if people, what they were doing. If they had three choices of three different options of food, immediately they would focus down in onto two so they could better make decisions. And that's an important thing to talk about just in research in general. A lot of times when in research, there's this binary choice. So you get one or you get the other. But when you add a third choice into there, the research really becomes much more complex and much more like real life. And I think some of those researchers are starting to understand
to whittle it down. I mean, this, if you think way back to like grade school or middle school, this is something we were sort of trained to do by teachers, in that if you have a multiple choice test and say maybe there's 4 choices, there's always one that's almost completely wrong or definitely wrong, so you can immediately throw that one out. Then you're down to 3, and then there's probably one choice that doesn't seem all that right, and so you could throw that out, and then you're really down to 2. Most multiple choice questions can really be whittled down to 2 things.
This is how I decide, like, if I ever get invited to a wedding and there are 3 meal choices, chicken, steak, or the vegetarian option. Say no to chicken. Just don't do it. Eliminate it. And then if you're there with a partner, someone gets the steak and someone gets the vegetarian.
You kick that decision down the road until the day of, and then you fight at the wedding.
Yeah, then you're like, oh, I should have got the steak.
You got it figured out, man.
That's right. There's a lot of psychology research
If you ever need to make a big decision, this is where you go.
Don't put chicken on the menu, people, okay?